Hello everybody. I'm might be in a bit of an echoey room today, but let's see how this goes out. Just trying different formats and seeing how this works out. So today it really does make me cringe, the headline, because it looks like one of those clickbait internet marketing videos trying to reel you in. But that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm actually going to be talking about the 4 ways to make money out of crypto. What tends to happen is that every time the price of Bitcoin goes on a tear, like it is at the moment, as we seem to be turning from the bear market to the bull market, having gone from a low of about 3,000 to now over 12,000, a 4x return in a short period of time, which I've seen several times. This is my 4th wave, having been involved in Bitcoin since 2011. I've seen my $30 Bitcoin crash to $3. I've seen my $1,250 Bitcoin crash to $250, and I've seen my $20,000 Bitcoin crash to $3,000, and I'm sure I'm gonna see my $100,000 Bitcoin crash to $25,000 as we go through these booms, bust cycles, and all part of the journey of being involved in the disruption of a multi-trillion-dollar financial industry as crypto becomes more and more mainstream, and the trials and tribulations around it. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about essentially 4 asset classes that I think you probably need to be aware of in crypto. The other thing that I really need to put some disclaimers out there. None of this should be taken as financial advice. You really do have to do your own research. There's a lot of people out there that are looking to scam you, take your money. There's so many things that can go wrong in crypto. And this really is I think it redefines the definition of high risk, high return. The returns can be so big, and the risks can be so high. But that's exactly why I think it's attracted so many people into the crypto industry. So the other thing I want to disclaim as well, again, none of this can be taken as financial advice. You need to take this into your own personal financial situation. The problem is that normally you would say go see a financial advisor, but I'm pretty sure a financial advisor is probably not going to be equipped to advise you in this industry, but they can give you some general advice, most likely, if you pick the right people around, how to manage risk, portfolio management, how much to speculate on something that is such high risk, high return, and all of those types of things. The other thing I want to do is put a disclaimer that I will do my best to disclose when I have a self-interest in some of the things that I'm actually saying. The challenge with this is that I've been involved with Bitcoin and investing in the industry since 2011, and I'm a shareholder in many different companies in the ecosystem. Some have gone bust, some have been gone on to be unicorns, and some of them might benefit from some of the things that I discuss in some of my videos. And what I try to do is just disclose to you when there is a self-interest, so that you can then analyze for yourself whether to take this as a shameless self-promotion that should be ignored, or whether you actually gain something from it. So I'll do my best. Sometimes I forget, but I'll try and put disclosures in there. The other thing is I'm messing around with the format a lot. I know I'm just trying lots of different things. My goal is to try and put out regular content, and sometimes I can't be in the studio set up or the nice steady camera set up. And I'm playing around with different things based on trying to fit this in at the same time as being the CEO and co-founder of Bank to the Future, and fit banktothefuture.com, and fit that into this. So I'm back to the shaky hand, and I know some of you love to give me feedback on how to improve these things, but that's it. So let's just jump into the content. And the final thing, we are having a studio built. It's going to take some time though, but I look forward to seeing you different formats. I just don't want to delay things. So let's go straight into the content. So, and I'm going to refer to different videos for those of you that want to dig deeper as well into any of these topics. So The 4 different ways. There are more, but these are the main ways that I've been involved with and that have some direct experience with. The first one is what I would call a commodity. And that commodity is a brand new asset class. Some people call it money. Some people call it a cryptocurrency. Some people even call it a stock or a security. Some people call it a scam. Some people call it a Ponzi scheme. Some call it a currency just for drug dealers. I call it a speculative store of value, and that is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the cornerstone of investing in the cryptocurrency industry. And I would suggest, again, not financial advice, but it's probably the first place that most of you should start if you're new to this industry. If you go to a previous stream, a couple of things I want to refer to you. I gave a stream just like this one, where I discussed everything you need to know, a newbie's guide to what you need to know, 3 things you need to know, 3 habits you need to develop before purchasing Bitcoin. And the other thing that I think you should know is why I think it's got commodity-like properties, why it is what I'm calling a speculative store of value, which I discussed in the previous, because there's ultra high returns to be made if Bitcoin becomes a store of value. And from my personal opinion, my perspective, that's inevitable. The writing's on the wall. And the real indicator of whether Bitcoin becomes, what I'm looking for after all the evidence that I've seen over the years is a correction in normal capital markets at the same time as an increase in value of Bitcoin, and a shift over from institutional money that diversify out of asset classes like gold, stocks, bonds, and move over to Bitcoin and alternatives. If we get an increase in the price of Bitcoin at the same time as a correction, so there's 2 kind of theories of what could happen from here. If we enter the global financial crisis, check out my other streams where I talk about the inevitability of the next global financial crisis. Then if we have a global market correction and everybody becomes a bit poorer and conservative and doesn't invest in Bitcoin, and therefore the price of Bitcoin suppresses, then I think we can say we have a correlated asset class that kind of operates within the realms of the traditional financial system as it becomes more and more institutional. However, if people divest themselves out of traditional commodities like gold, stocks, bonds, and move that money into crypto, and we get a parabolic increase in the price of Bitcoin as more and more institutions come over and more retail come over, then to me the writing's on the wall. We have this scarce digital asset where there's only 21 million of them, and I believe that will lead to one of the largest redistributions of wealth that we've seen in centuries between those who have Bitcoin and those who don't. Again, you have to do your own analysis on that. You could end up losing all your money if this goes wrong, but from my perspective, Bitcoin's worth a hell of a lot more than it is right now, or nothing, and there's not really much in between. So that's, kind of my first analysis. So the first way is to check out my stream where I talked about everything you need to know, the 3 habits before buying Bitcoin, and that will give you some tips and advice on how to get into Bitcoin if you're not there already. The second one, which I've been involved with, and this is very self-serving, is equity. And so I've been investing in equity in crypto and fintech companies, and co-founded the platform banktothefuture.com, which is pretty much at this stage the only place where you can build a diversified portfolio of companies in crypto. To be transparent, many of those have gone bust and just not made it over the years. Some are just dwindling along, but about 6 of them have gone on to become unicorns, and we now say you'd have to go through that, but you can buy and sell shares or beneficial interests in the largest companies in crypto. Many of these companies end up, launching their own token or something and holding some of those tokens within their equity. And so while it's not as easy to buy and sell them as some of the tokens that might be launched in this industry, it is where a lot of the value is maintained, and equity to this up till this stage has still not been disrupted, and a lot of the value is captured, but it's high risk, high return, long-term investing. It's not a quick buy and sell flip like some of the other asset classes that I'll be discussing. The other way to understand that as well is if you are a Bank to the Future customer, then this Thursday I'll be giving a live stream on Bank to the Future on the Bank to the Future token. The Bank to the Future token is a way for people to benefit from the growth of the crypto equity ecosystem. And I'll be giving a bit more details on that for those of you that are Bank to the Future customers. But this wasn't designed to be a self-serving video. But that is a self-serving because I don't know any other way to invest in equity in the companies in crypto and gain some of the growth as some of those companies become unicorns. The third way is more speculative, and it is really altcoins. And altcoins, let me just try and give a brief little history. There has been ways to get wrecked and ways to make parabolic returns off alternatives to Bitcoin. Now, I consider Bitcoin its own asset class, and I don't really consider it part of the cryptocurrency sector because Bitcoin is so different from all of them, and it really is the world's best shot we've ever had at achieving a non-political form of sound money and what I call a speculative store of value that might become the world's best store of value that we've seen, that also has a peer-to-peer electronic cash system attached to it, which means that you can, it's just something we've never seen before. It is decentralized to much more than any of the others. You know, there's lots of debates around that, and you'll hear people in our crypto infighting around those debates, but Bitcoin has stood the test of time. It's proven to be an asset class in its own. But alongside that is the alternatives. Now, this is where people get really, really confused because there is lots of money to be made in investing in alternative cryptocurrencies, and the word cryptocurrency itself is somewhat misleading because some of these things are really different things. So what we're actually referring to is the fact that every single asset class in the world is highly likely, from my perspective at this stage, to move over to being some kind of digital asset that sits on a blockchain. And there are lots of different ways that people are developing lots of interesting technology to facilitate everything moving over to a blockchain. And so I can't sit here and go through 2,000 different cryptocurrencies and tokens. All I can do is probably give you a very brief overview of some of the things that you might want to be considering if you are looking at these alternatives. And what I'm going to do is, I've only got a very small amount of battery on this phone, but I'm just going to pull up this phone and give you my perspective of what you're betting on. And betting is the right word because it is a bet when you're looking at some of these different things that you might have heard of. So I've already covered Bitcoin. Bitcoin sits at number one. Ethereum is essentially very different to Bitcoin. It's going through major changes at the moment. It was designed for a very different thing. It was originally funded by Bitcoiners that put their Bitcoin into investing in what's called an ICO, initial coin offering, for Ethereum in order to develop technology that allows people to build these things called smart contracts. Now, so far, smart contracts, the use case that has developed from smart contracts is the ability to create additional tokens, and those tokens form very, very different use cases. And really, when I look at what you're looking at when you're looking at Ethereum, is a bet on an alternative blockchain becoming the disruption of capital markets and these things called decentralized applications. The other thing that's coming now is that a lot of technology is being built to allow that to happen on Bitcoin, but Bitcoin, that's not its primary goal. I see it as disruption So when you're investing in Ethereum, I think the type of thing you're looking at is the disruption of capital markets as the main use case. And as more and more governments are looking at creating their own, remember in a previous stream, I talked about how in the next financial crisis, governments are going to create their own digital currencies in order to bail out the banks, is to not have to bail them out and to let them go bust and bail them in. Just check out the other videos where I talked about what happens next in the financial crisis. If they are going to use a public blockchain, they're highly likely to probably use Ethereum at this stage, because it seems to have more favor with governments and corporations, and it seems to be more friendly in that environment. But then again, a lot of the alternative technology like Liquid, Lightning, and various other things are making Bitcoin attractive in that space as well. XRP, I should disclosures I need to make. Bitcoin, I benefit from the growth of the whole ecosystem. I am probably the most undiversified, probably never should follow my approach, but I'm completely invested into the growth of the financial technology, alternative growth of cryptocurrency. So if Bitcoin goes up, I don't sell Bitcoin. I've got no way of using, I'm not trying to sell you that. But if Bitcoin grows up, then my portfolio and my investments benefit from that. In terms of Ethereum, we did actually launch at Bank to the Future a mining product, an investment product when it very first launched, which was one of the highest returning products on Bank to the Future. There's my disclosure. XRP. So what are you betting on? XRP is a very interesting and controversial cryptocurrency. Some people don't call it cryptocurrency. Some people think it's highly centralized. Full disclosure, Ripple Labs is on the Bank to the Future secondary market through its SPV. And so the company does hold a significant amount of XRP. I think the maximum is about 60% of the supply of it. So as the price of XRP would go up, the company would benefit. So there's a disclosure from me, on that one. But essentially with XRP, you are investing in the philosophy that a cryptocurrency can be used to facilitate interbank transfers and disrupt SWIFT in the interbank transfer market. If any of you are involved in international wire transfers, it's disgusting process. It's my pet hate is sending money overseas. The FX fees, the disgusting fees, the slowness. Then you have counterparty banks and you're dealing with 8 to 12 middle people all tapping away in computers as it goes from your clearing bank to your counterparty bank to the central bank, through an FX broker, through to the other second counterparty bank, with an FX broker sat in the middle, and the clearing bank, and then through to the international system. And there's about 8 or 9 people that can lose the money in between. And then you've got to send this computer message out to SWIFT and they do a trace. And then you try and trace it, and then your bank charges you a fee in order to do it. And then you find out that the money's got to be returned because you put one computer entry wrong. Then it comes back to you, and then you've got an FX fee to get it back. And it's just a disgusting, horrible, broken system that I would love to see easier ways of sending fiat money across borders in a much easier way. And essentially, XRP is a cryptocurrency created by Ripple Labs that is looking to solve that problem through a cryptocurrency and other technology as well. So essentially, that's what you're betting on, this cryptocurrency. Now, there's some controversy around that because really, in order to facilitate that and make that happen, the most liquid cryptocurrency is the one that can do that best. And because Bitcoin has a lot more liquidity than XRP, there's questions about that, and there's lots of things to debate. But anyway, XRP is a bet on whether Ripple Labs can create technology that uses that cryptocurrency that allows for the disruption of SWIFT. Is what you're betting on. Bitcoin Cash, very controversial subject, but essentially what you're betting on is that Bitcoin scaling solutions in order to bring it out to the masses are incorrect is the bet. Personally, I don't think they are. But if they are incorrect, then when you're purchasing Bitcoin Cash, you're betting that the scaling strategies that are adopted of how to bring it to the masses and get fees cheaper to the world is big enough and important enough to disrupt Bitcoin, even though it's a more centralized it was where we know who the creators were, and therefore it doesn't have some of the commodity-like properties that Bitcoin has as this apolitical, independent digital currency, commodity, whatever you want to call it. But essentially what you're betting on with Bitcoin Cash is that Bitcoin doesn't have unique properties, and therefore another one can just come along, as long as they've got lower transaction fees, then they can kind of step in where Bitcoin left off, which good luck if you're making that bet. But I also should add another disclaimer. The problems with cryptocurrencies is sometimes there's money to be made just from investing in scams and getting out at the right time. So that's a real other problematic stage. So I could tell you about all the problems with something. You could end up making a load of money out of that and then say, Simon Dixon, you're an idiot, you cost me money, which is why I don't like doing videos like this often. But due to popular demand, I just want to put my thoughts out there so that when people, because I know what's coming next, all of my Facebook friends, all of my people that I knew at school, all of the people that are just going to suddenly come out of the woodworks and say, hey, Simon, how do I buy Bitcoin? How do I get involved? How do you make money in cryptocurrency? And I just want to send them to a video and say, watch this. So that's the purpose of this, because it's just such a problematic thing for anyone involved. Litecoin, what can I say about Litecoin? I don't really know what to say. It was one of the first Bitcoin forks. The goal was to be silver if Bitcoin is gold. It's friendly towards Bitcoin, whereas Bitcoin Cash is more less friendly and tries to succeed if Bitcoin fails is their goal. Whereas Litecoin wants to be complementary, very popular in Asia. I'm not quite sure what it is, what it serves. EOS is essentially what you're betting on if you're purchasing EOS is that a more centralized version of Ethereum that can be faster and do more transactions per second, that becomes more useful for the creation of decentralized applications and just disruption of capital markets and smart contracts, then EOS has got a lot of community around it, and that's essentially what you're betting on. Binance token, Binance coin, essentially Binance is one of the most successful cryptocurrency exchanges in our industry, and they've designed a token whereby those that have the token can benefit from the growth of the company. And so essentially you're betting on that the Binance ecosystem becomes a very large part of the cryptocurrency ecosystem. And the token has utility whereby you can get discounted trading fees and things like that. Pure self-interest, I discussed it earlier. Similar is the Bank to the Future token. You're essentially betting on the growth of the Bank to the Future ecosystem, but it also has utility where if you're going to be buying and selling equity in companies, then you get 50% discounted trading fees using this token. And as the security token ecosystem and everything we're doing around taking traditional asset classes and putting them onto the blockchain, if that ecosystem prevails and Bank to the Future is an important part of that, then that's what you're essentially betting on, or you're using this token to build a portfolio in equity companies. And I'll be giving a live stream on Bank to the Future about the token on Thursday. So that's a pure self-interest play. Bitcoin SV, what the hell can I say about that? Another one that thinks they're the real Bitcoin created by somebody, believes that they are the creator of Bitcoin, and probably as centralized as it comes. You might as well Well, I don't know. Yeah, let's move on. Tether is just an interesting way of moving value around from one crypto to another. It's not an investment, it's pure utility. It just allows you to not go in and out of fiat, but still have send money pegged to the dollar. Disclosure, I am a shareholder in Bitfinex, and Bitfinex, the parent company iFinex, owns the shares in the company that created Tether. And then you've got this myriad of others that are all looking to disrupt Bitcoin, that are all looking to disrupt Ethereum, and lots of different tokens that you may benefit from if their technology and decentralized application prevails. And I am not going to go any deeper than that. So let me just recap. There's a commodity called Bitcoin. I think it should personally, not financial advice, but it should be the cornerstone of anyone that's getting into the industry. If Bitcoin succeeds and many of the alternatives become important in different areas of the disruption of the multi-trillion-dollar financial industry and other areas, it's not just a financial play, but I personally believe my personal interest is in the disruption of every single financial product being disrupted as a result of this technology, and Bitcoin creating programmable money, which is like a bank in a box that provides an exit for those that don't want to engage in the traditional financial system Ponzi scheme that's going to have some real challenges ahead that people need to be aware of, and check out other videos for that one. The second is equity, and if you invest in a diversified portfolio of companies you qualify to invest, then you can benefit from the growth of the whole ecosystem with the companies that might be capturing value. Again, high risk, high return, only for certain types of investors. And I have a self-interest because I created the platform that allows for that, banktothefuture.com. The third one is alternatives. I gave you my perspective on some of the bets you're making or from my perspective of what you might be betting on. And there is also a huge correlation in the industry as well. So what tends to happen is when Bitcoin, sometimes, and this doesn't always happen, but sometimes when Bitcoin goes up, then everything might go up higher. That was the last bull market. When Bitcoin crashes, everything crashes higher. And so there's the opportunity to perpetuate or increase your, gains or losses. But then also you have, so finally, I'm going to go through the fourth way. And I'd say this is more of an advanced one, but it's an emerging asset class that people keep asking me about. And I think is going to have such a huge impact in the market in the future. But it's very, very speculative right now. And that is using your cryptocurrency, or I think next, traditional money, in order to receive much higher yield and interest-like returns. And that's happening in a few ways. So one of the very early ways was lending your crypto or lending your dollars in a peer-to-peer market through a company like Bitfinex, whereby you could lend your dollars collateralized by margin traders that want to essentially go short or long Bitcoin on leverage, and they have to put a lot of capital on reserve. The risk is, if there is a parabolic increase or decrease at a very fast rate, they have a lot of margin calls, and that's kind of the major risk. But apart from that, it tends to provide a steady flow of income that outperforms traditional savings accounts. The problem is, check out other videos where I gave a beginner's guide to Bitcoin. You're going to have to deposit your Bitcoin or currency into a bank-like institution, and therefore at that stage, when you go with an exchange or a bank-like institution, they own your money, they can spend your money, and you're at the mercy of some of the forces I talked about in the beginner's guide to buying Bitcoin. Now, as a counterforce to that, there's innovation happening whereby you can, in a decentralized way, take your cryptocurrency, put it on, collateralize it, and receive returns and interest in a decentralized way where you're not at the mercy of a third party. Things like MakerDAO, these are very advanced things. You'd have to be very comfortable with how the cryptocurrency industry works. But these things are really, really disruptive. And the reason I think it's disruptive is because in the future, these decentralized ways of earning yield and income by collateralizing your assets are going to lead to the next wave of savings products, especially when combined with stable coins, which allow people to take their fiat money, convert it into a digital representation of that money, and then receive much, much higher returns than they could on their savings at a bank or a traditional lower risk asset class. And it might, in the end up being a similar risk profile, but with higher returns. I think in the future, that's going to suck out billions and trillions from the traditional savings sector and end up being the thing that moves us away from a fractional reserve Ponzi scheme at a bank to a full reserve asset-based economy that encourages savings over taking on debt, and all the challenges around that the government are going to have to deal with as people become savers rather than borrowers. There's nothing wrong with debt, but money created as debt has systemic risk. But anyway, that's a diversion. I'll save that one for another video. Is there a problem with debt? Maybe you'd like to see that, and my thoughts around why there isn't a problem with debt, but money created as debt is a big problem. So, longer than I thought it was going to take, as always, but there's four kind of ways of doing that. One, commodity, Bitcoin. Check out the economics of Bitcoin video I created on YouTube if you want to learn more about the economics. You've got to understand that, and the beginner's guide stream that I gave here on Twitter and some of my other mediums. The second one is equity. Build a diversified portfolio in the largest companies in crypto, and that's a bet on the disruption of the traditional financial system or other things that they might be doing. The third one is alternatives, and there's so many different bets there that you're going to have to be involved in the crypto industry to understand some of these plays, because things change so fast, and it's such a fast changing, exciting industry. And then the fourth one is the next wave of interest yielding products that I think are going to suck lots of money out of the savings industry, using crypto as collateral and allowing you to benefit from your savings, but it's a more advanced product, it's more early stage, and it's not user-friendly yet. But that will change, and those types of companies will be investing in on Bank to the Future and making those opportunities available for those that want to benefit from equity in such companies. So that's how this whole ecosystem fits together. I tried to disclose as many self-interests as I can, so please feel free to dismiss everything I say as complete self-interest salesman, snake oil salesman just trying to pitch his own book. You are welcome to do that, but I'm just trying to give what I think are things that you might need to know, having been involved in this industry since 2011. And once you go down the rabbit hole, you're probably never gonna come back. And that's been my feedback. So do let me know what you'd like to see in future live streams. Let me know if you like this. I would really appreciate you retweeting this or sharing, because I know that as Bitcoin has teared past $12,000 this morning, the messages and the amount of people that are going to want to get involved in this industry is going to become greater and greater and greater, and hopefully this guidance can help them and avoid jumping into some scam or something. Anyway, it's inevitable. We all learn by making mistakes, and hopefully this prevents some of those mistakes, but you're going to make some of them along the way. We all do. Over and out. I'm getting back to work. Thank you for your time.